Hi everybody, it's Erik again from E&A Day2Day. This video is 2 of 2 in my journey towards bariatrics. In this video, I'll be discussing my timeline and how I am at this current point in my journey. So after I went to my wife's orientation and I decided that bariatrics was for me, I went and talked to my actual family doctor. Now, my family doctor I talked to in January of 2020. When I talked to them, we went over the previous things that I had done in my efforts towards losing weight. Some were successful, but most temporary. And we decided that bariatrics was for me. So they sent over a referral to the bariatric clinic for bariatric surgery. For the next step, I waited for a long time, but that's okay. We have to make sure that this is a choice for us and that we actually are committed to making a change. So my orientation was booked for October of 2020. Now, of course, I asked April, my wife, to see if she would accompany me for this orientation session, which she did. So we kind of learned twice what the information we need to know was. This way, we were able to maximize our learning opportunities. Only catch was, her actual orientation was in person. Mine was over the internet. So it was a little bit of a different thing having a bunch of people in the same class. And there was a couple things that I learned. After my wife's orientation, I learned that you could still have coffee, but you can't have caffeine. So after her actual orientation, I switched to decaf coffee. Now, anybody who doesn't like coffee without anything in it, try taking out the caffeine. It makes it a little interesting. A side note, though, is that actual coffee will help to clean out your liver. Now, it's not 100% effective, but it assists. So I actually went and had that done as well. So I was at the orientation session, and we were going through the information. We spoke with the social worker. They were letting us know that a lot of things are going to change in our mentality, that we have to be able to think about what we're eating, think about not just the fact that we're eating, but that we're not emotionally eating. So we're not, eating to support an emotional need. So they wanted to make sure that from his aspect that we prepared for the changes in our minds, so that when we made the changes with our bodies, it wasn't going to have as big of an impact on us, and hopefully not a negative one in our minds. They went over different services that they could provide to try and help people. They also want to make sure that when you're going through this process, that you get the support you need emotionally, mentally, as well as physically. So that was a great thing for that orientation to go through with the social worker. Now, the dietitian was, at this point, mainly going over things like portion sizes, which are really small, but that's okay. Remember, you're eating to live, not living to eat. And that I'm okay with. You see, with my new ways that I eat now, most of the time I have a lower amount of food. And after the Ozempic, I don't really crave to eat a lot. So I actually have to remind myself to eat. Finding that perfect balance is a little difficult. Right now, because I'm on the quick pen, even though I'm not classified as a type 1, although now, because I use the insulin on a daily basis, they may start to classify me as a type 1 diabetic. But what I do is I take the information from my blood sugar readings and I put it into my own little Excel formula so that I can actually have a better opportunity to calculate how much insulin that I'm going to need to lower my blood. I have a better opportunity to try and calculate how much insulin I'm going to need when I eat carbohydrates. Now, I don't carb count for a negative towards myself reason. I carb count so that I can take the appropriate amount of insulin, because I find that when I go up in blood sugar or down in blood sugar into lows or highs, it's negative towards me. I get headaches, I get dizzy, I need to sleep more often than I should. So these things I was trying to get away from. So this information with the dietitian also solidified my next steps in towards making sure that I was ready for the rest of the process. So then we get to November of 2020. And now I have a appointment with the nurse practitioner. Even though we're in COVID, this is an in-person appointment. Reason being is she's taking measurements. Not only is she measuring my height, she's measuring my weight, she's measuring my waist, she's measuring my hips, and they're calculating my BMI, my body mass index. Now, because I have so many of the symptoms, basically all of them that are required to go and be qualified for bariatric surgery. 1, I have the high blood pressure. 2, I have high cholesterol. 3, I have diabetes. Right? So you can see where this is going. These are all life-altering things that are going on with my body that are also coupled with my actual weight. So, that being said, that same day, I got blood work done and I got an ECG done. Moving on to just before we get to the New Year's, so near the end of December of 2020, I had a call with, and this is over the phone, so I had a call with the dietitian and I had a call with the social worker. So this was a personal call this time. This was to go over my reasons for wanting to get into bariatrics. You see, as April was saying, they don't want people to get into bariatrics because they're pressured by someone. This is not a choice for someone else to make. This is a you thing. So when it's a you thing, you need to make sure that these choices are good for you. So I spoke to them in regards to everything. They were very nice. I spoke with the social worker first. The social worker gave me some information that was absolutely wonderful. They were saying if you need any help, just let us know. They're checking into our backgrounds to make sure that there wasn't anything negative that caused the eating issues in the first place, so that they could help you to get through into a way of being able to have another coping mechanism or whatever the next step may be to help you in a positive fashion. The dietitian was just going over and said, when we looked at your blood work, we saw that you had a need for vitamin D. We want you to take a multivitamin. And that was basically it for that appointment. So I started taking vitamin D and I was taking a multivitamin. And you know what the funny part is that you're not supposed to take men one a days for men, not while you're doing this. So you're actually supposed to take women's one a day. Whatever, as long as it's supposed to be what I need. That's what I said. It's okay. Let me know what I need to do, because I want this to work. I want to get healthy. I want to be there for my kids. When you have a hard time like I do going to bend down and tie up your shoes, you have a hard time with your hands. I have arthritis. I have a bad back. My legs could give out at any time. At one point I was walking with 2 canes. Sometimes I walk with 1. And right now I'm actually, day to day, I'm actually not using 1 at all. So these kind of things you got to kind of watch out for. I'm looking to better my body. And to help me do that, I need to lose weight. So in January, I'm wondering where my sleep clinic referral was, because, people who go for the bariatrics quite substantially have to go through a sleep clinic just to make sure that their breathing is appropriate. They want to know what's going on, because they're going to put you under anesthetic. And that means that you're going to be put to sleep. So they want to make sure that they know how to handle your breathing, that they know how to handle your appropriate amount of medication. Well, I hadn't heard anything, so I called the place where they sent the referral to, and I said, you know what, it's not an issue. I'm just kind of wondering where we're at. And I said, okay, so when would we be able to do an appointment? Would we be able to book one? And they said, well, you know what about next week? I said, great, no problem. And then they said, okay, well, we'll book your follow up with the specialist doctor for afterwards to go over your result that same Thursday. I said, great, that's awesome. April was over in the grocery store and I get a call. And they said, we have a question for you, Eric. I said, okay. I said, I know we just booked you in for next week, but are you available to go in tonight? I know, right? I was able to go on that night. So I said, well, let me talk with my wife. She's going to be out in about 15 minutes. And I'll give you a call right back. So we were able to make it happen that night. I had my follow-up on that Friday with the doctor. So that moved that quite along. So when I went in for my sleep study, they had a whole bunch of things all hooked up to me. They were measuring how many times that my breathing stopped in an hour, and I think they were saying that my breathing stopped like 81 times in an hour. 81 times. That's scary. I knew that I wasn't getting enough sleep. I already knew that I was snoring, but 81 times, that's a lot. So then the next part was getting hooked up with a sleep machine. So we went to a local place over here that got a breathing machine, and since using it, I'll stop breathing maybe half to one time in an hour or less. So yeah, big difference, right? Which is great because now I'm able to sleep better, which means that I get more energy during the day. So that's another great thing about this process, is that we were able to fix that up. Now also, I had an abdominal scan done in January of 2021. And this abdominal scan was set up by the bariatric clinic as well. So I did that. Now, before I went for my next bariatric appointment with the dietitian, because they wanted to do a follow-up, I had to do a 14-day journal. So a food journal that chronicled every last thing that I put into my face. Whether I was drinking, whether I was eating it, didn't matter what, I had to put it. So now we're in February of 2021. And February of 2021 brought a couple of things. One of which was the follow-up appointment with the dietitian, where we went over my different foods that I ate and everything that I went through. They wanted me to do another 5-day journal before the next time I talked to them, which is fine. You go through the steps that you need to. Everybody's is different. Just because this is my journey doesn't mean that it'll mirror somebody else's, but that's okay. We need to make sure that we go through the journey that we're prescribed by the doctors. On the next part, I had finished my 14 days with my actual sleep aid machine for my breathing. So at that point in time, I spoke with the place and I had them send over my 14-day report over to the bariatric clinic, because they said, no, we didn't have to do really any adjustments to your machine, so we can send that over. And now I just keep using my machine as often as possible, just to make sure that I breathe better at night and so that my wife can sleep. That's important too. So this gets me to the last part of February. We're still in fairly early February now, and I get a call. And this call is from the assistant to the surgeon. So they've approved me for surgery. And I'm talking with the assistant, and we're going over, how'd you get into wanting to go to bariatrics? What have you tried before? What's your current weight? What's your height? What are you expecting out of this? And then we got down to the mind-blown moment where they said, all right, let's pick a date for your surgery. A date for my surgery. Now this has got a couple of kinks in it. I'm ready physically for my surgery. But the problem is that with my job, I have a certification. And my certification, I need to work 7 months continuously with a minimum of 1,200 hours to get my year of experience. Now that's a problem. If I break up my year in a job where you have yearly shutdowns, you can have a massive issue. Now currently I'm working and I'm in a year-round one. So if I take my surgery too quick, I'm going to be off for at least a month. 2 quick issues with that. I need to be able to bring in money for the house so that I can provide. And the second part is that I've actually got to physically take that time off, so now I'm not eligible for my designation. So I have 2 important things to think about other than the surgery itself. I've got to figure out a way to have my surgery, right? But I have to make sure that I have a paycheck that's reasonable for these 4 weeks that I'm off. And then I have to make sure that I have enough hours to reach my designation. So I figured this out. So do you know what? I can get 1,200 hours by the end of July. Let's say I need to take a few days off here or there for appointments. We'll say that that's end of August. No problem, right? So September looks pretty good. So now we've got the hours part. Now what am I going to do about pay? Well, I spitfired some ideas with April, and we came to the conclusion that if I take 8 hours per pay and bank it, I have this ability with my work to say, I need you to hold on to these 8 hours for me and not pay them for me yet. We're going to put that I worked them because I did. But we're not going to pay them for me yet. And we're just going to put those in a bank. Now, by putting those in a bank and putting whatever extra hours that I get over top of my 40, right now, I'll end up getting my 72-hour paychecks, which is just fine. We can work with that. Then, when it comes to September, if I were to have it in September, like just after what we call Labor Day weekend up here in Canada, then what we can do is I can have 2 paychecks that are 67 hours. Now that last bit is making sure that I get enough money to provide for the house. Check. Then I have to have enough hours for my designation. Check. So now I have it figured out. So what they're going to do is I said, and I explained this to the assistant, and I said, is there any way that we could do this for like September? And you know what? They said, we'll probably get our times for September in July. So we'll give you a call back at that time and you'll have pick of the litter. So guess what, friends? My surgery is coming up in September. And I am super excited. And we're excited to keep you on this journey with us. So if you like this video, click on that like button. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. We have a lot more coming, and we want to keep you with us on this journey. Take care and have a great day. Bye.